So, you've got a kid who sees ghosts? I can help. Welcome, weirdos. I'm Rory. I'm a medium and I teach other people how to unfold their natural intuitive abilities. While I don't have any kids myself, I do remember what it was like to see ghosts as a kid. And these are the things I wish I knew then. Let's talk about the why first. Why do kids see ghosts? The answer is pretty simple, because we all live on after our physical bodies die, and the afterlife isn't so far away from us here. We are born open to sensing these spirit energies, but nearly all of us learn to block these abilities. I use the term ghosts here quite loosely, as just because your kid can sense spirits doesn't mean it is an energy that's haunting them. Most spirits are completely harmless. They're often our past loved ones, and while these can still be scary for a young kid, or honestly, sometimes as an adult too, that doesn't mean that they are malicious or hurting or haunting your kid. You do not need to be afraid of your child sensing or seeing spirits, just as they don't need to be afraid either. Tip number 1. If I knew as a child that I could tell a spirit to go away and it would listen, I would have spent so much less time quivering in fear in my bed at night. And I mean a lot less time. My mom actually taught me this lesson when I was a teenager. My grandma had just passed, and she was the first close loved one of mine who had passed away. And then all of a sudden, there she is standing in my doorway. In my dorm room, in my bedroom at home, night after night. She'd just stand there staring at me. And I love my grandma. But it was scary to see her standing there night after night, especially as I was just processing the realities of her death. I thought I was nuts. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. One day I told my mom about this, and her response was, "Did you tell her to leave and stop scaring you?" I'd never thought of that. So I tried, and boom, Grandma was gone, and she never came back until I learned how to call her in intentionally later. Tell your kids that when they speak to spirits, those spirits can hear them, and they will listen to them. If the spirit is scaring them at all, even if it's a past loved one, it is okay for them to tell them to leave, and the spirit has to listen. The key to this is to say it and mean it. Ask your child how they feel when they want their sibling to get out of their room. How would they say it? Have them practice repeating this so they feel comfortable to do this when there's a spirit around that they don't want to be around. Tip number 2, help them to get to a good feeling place before they lie down to try to go to sleep at night. Hear me out on this one. Spirits are around all the time. It doesn't matter the time of day. But because their energy is so subtle, this tends to stand out more against the dark of the night than in the middle of the day. But they don't need to be afraid. As a medium, I'm always paying attention to the vibration I'm at, and then intentionally raising up that vibration before I tune into any spirits. Because, number 1, spirits exist in an energetic state and not a physical state. And number 2, a higher vibration ensures that I'm only connecting with spirits that are helpful and healing and of the highest and best good. How can I tell if I'm in this higher vibration? My emotions. Those are the signals of our vibrational state. When I am, or you, or your child are feeling frightened, ashamed, or worried, we're vibrating at a lower level. For someone who is sensitive to spirits, this is when they're much more likely to connect with lower, more negative energies, which also tend to feel much scarier. When we're feeling happy, grateful, or satisfied, we're vibrating at a much higher level. At this higher vibration, not only do we feel better and more uplifted, but for mediums, it ensures that we can connect with only loving, high vibration spirits too. This is a technique that I teach every single one of my mediumship students on day 1, and it is the most important aspect to protecting yourself with spirits. This does not mean that you or your kid need to only be happy and grateful 24/7, because I think we all know if you could do that, you would. But it does mean that helping your kid to raise up their vibration before turning off the lights at night can help them to be less fearful and eliminate their contact with more negative spirits when they're most likely to connect with them. So how do you do this? Truly, anything that makes them happy will work. Read an uplifting book, sing a song, or play music for them. Ask them to name their favorite part of the day and give thanks for it. Not only will this help protect them from these lower spirit energies, but it will reduce their fear and make bedtime so much easier for everyone. And honestly, it doesn't hurt to give them as many nightlights as they'd like to. Tip number 3, teach them to call in a spirit guide to protect them anytime they want. Well, it's likely your child won't know what a spirit guide is or who their spirit guides are. We all do have spirit guides. There are many options for who they can call upon. If there is a loved one that your child knew and loved in life who's passed away, you can absolutely teach them to call the spirit in to protect them. They can either talk to them out loud or use thought alone. You may encourage them to imagine this loved one guarding their room or their energy once they do this, if they're not sure that they see or feel this presence right away. Let them know that this loved one is there to support them, to keep other spirits away, and that they can ask this loved one to leave anytime as well as they can ask them to come forward anytime too. The best option for this is if your child had a favorite pet who has passed away. Our pets live on in the spirit world after death just like we all do, and they make the best protector spirit guides for children. Have them call in this pet just as they would with a human spirit guide. Have them visualize this pet guarding over their bedroom, protecting them. If neither of these is an option for your child, you're not out of luck. The archangels can be helpful with this too. These are a league of high-level, high-vibrational spirit guides that any of us can call upon. Archangel Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, or Uriel are all great options and will support your child once they call them in. Number 4, teach your child a prayer or affirmation to repeat themselves when a spirit is scaring them. This was the one thing that I did as a child. I must have heard the phrase, "the white light of God surrounds me," at church, because I remember repeating it in my head again and again as a child. I'd repeat it as I'd run up the stairs from the basement, away from the ghosts I saw down there. I'd repeat it in bed when I'd see a spirit standing at my closet door. I'd repeat it when I'd stay over at a relative's house, and all the spirits there I wasn't used to would show up. Whenever I would repeat it, I would imagine a bright white light all around me, protecting me and creating a barrier between me and the ghost. I honestly repeated this so many times as a child, but it worked. Brainstorm with your child so they can come up with an affirmation that sounds right to them. This phrase may be, "the white light of God surrounds me," if that feels right to both of you, or even just "white light surrounds me and protects me." My personal favorite, which I still use because I never grew out of being afraid of the dark, is "I live in the light of love." Whatever phrase your child chooses, tell them that they can repeat it out loud or in their minds, and they can also add in a visualization, something like bright white light surrounding them and creating a safe space all around them. This will only help reinforce the effectiveness of this tool. Tip number 5, you don't have to talk about the validity of ghosts and whether you think they're real or not with your child. You may not know what you believe on this topic, and I totally understand that. Even with my experiences with spirit throughout my childhood, I was skeptical of all of this until I started connecting with my dad on the other side. I totally get that it's also hard to believe. But I want to ask you to not try to convince your kid who is seeing spirits that those spirits aren't real. As a child, I probably saw the largest amounts of spirit most commonly in my grandma's house, but I was told nothing was there. It can be very confusing and hurtful for a kid to be told what they feel and hear and see so clearly isn't real. Just because you might not sense them doesn't mean they're not actually there. You can certainly tell them that there is nothing to fear and that they have control over what spirits are around them. That's absolutely true. But please do not tell them that they aren't there. It's critical that your child doesn't feel ashamed or judged about their abilities. Otherwise, they're just going to close these off, and with it, a part of themselves too. If your kid is seeing ghosts, they will be so much happier and healthier as a child and as an adult, knowing that they are in control of this ability. As someone who sees ghosts and easily connects with those not in their physical bodies anymore, I have become exponentially healthier and happier when I opened up to these abilities than when I was blocking them. You can support your child by reducing the fear, judgment, and shame they might feel around it. And I can guarantee you that you're going to have a much happier kid. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to boop that like button and then boop that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more content like this. See ya!